I'm thrilled to be here in Arizona. I'm Tina Descovich. I'm the co-founder of Moms for Liberty. We've been traveling to towns around the country and putting on a series of town halls calling them Giving Parents a Voice Town Hall. We are helping bring leaders in each state that are making decisions about education to the community and opening it up. What we're going to do at the end of this evening is just open up the mic on the floor and let you guys ask questions of your elected leaders. And everyone that's here today for the panel has agreed to answer these questions. We'll set some ground rules for that so that we can have an open dialogue, but also do it in a way that is civil. But I'm excited to be here tonight. I'm excited to be here with you. I'm thrilled that you all could join us. But I want to take care of some housekeeping here and do some recognitions and some acknowledgments before we get started. The first people I would like to acknowledge is anyone in the room that's currently serving on a school board or is a school board candidate. Can you please stand up? You guys are on the front lines right now. Thank you so much for stepping up and doing the work and stepping up and being willing to do the work if you're a candidate. If you saw them stand up around you, please reach out and support them, talk to them, help them if they're running for office. Next, I would like to recognize our elected officials that are in the audience. First, we have State Superintendent Tom Horne. If you could please stand. Next, we have State Senator Jake Hoffman. State Senator Justine Wadsack. Representative Justine Heap. Representative Barbara Parker. Also joining us tonight is Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell. Thank you all for taking the time. I know you're busy individuals. I know you have a lot of demands on your life between your family and the work that you're doing, and we appreciate the time you're taking to focus on education. Are there any other elected officials here who we have not recognized? If you are, please stand. Oh, we did a good job. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, next I would like to recognize Susan. Are you in here, Susan? She is the principal of this beautiful school that is hosting our event. She is in the back there. For those that don't know Susan, she has been in this fight a long time. We had a great conversation when we reached out and rented the space. She started a school in her home a very long time ago, and she has been doing this a long time. When we were looking for a venue to hold this tonight, I was Googling places, and when I saw the outside of the school, I immediately saw Monticello, which is one of my favorite places on the planet. And so I knew we had to be here, and I'm thrilled that you allowed us to use this venue tonight. So thank you, Susan. Okay, next up, we have a real treat. We have the Squires family, who is going to open us up with the national anthem. Followed the Squires family, we are going to have Kathy, our brand new chapter chair for the brand new Maricopa Mesa chapter, give us an invocation.
Our dear kind Father in heaven, we are so grateful to be gathered here today as concerned citizens. Please bless this meeting, that thy spirit might be here, that we might be touched in a way to know how we can help these children and help our education system regain our parental rights and our freedoms. We bless those good leaders that are leading with strength and fortitude to continue to fight. Please bless this great nation, bless our freedoms, bless us to do what is necessary to keep them. And we say things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ, amen.
I forgot to announce that directly after that, Lisa Jensen, one of our new chapter members for our newest chapter, is going to give us a Madison Minute. In Moms for Liberty, whenever we have activities or events or meetings, after we usually do the pledge or the national anthem and the invocation, we always have a Madison Minute. And what that is a quote from a founding father, something that had to do with the establishment of this country, a quote from the Constitution, one of our founding documents, that helps us root all of the work that we do in the founding principles of this country. Lisa.
All right, so when I found out I was doing the Madison Minute this morning, I was like, what is the Madison Minute? But I found a quote that I really like, and what's interesting is that I was actually at some training on the U.S. Constitution, so I thought, how appropriate. The quote that I want to share with you today is, "Knowledge will forever govern ignorance. And a people who mean to be their own governors must arm themselves with the power which knowledge gives." And so I am hoping that as we open this new chapter of Moms for Liberty, we will be able to be a powerful group who are able to make a difference in this area. And we would love your support. So please reach out to us if you would like to be a part of our chapter. Thank you.
I can't believe she turned me in and said it took till this morning to assign her that. So as many of you know, tonight is actually the biggest kickoff Moms for Liberty has ever had for a chapter. Usually chapters start with 10 or 12 people, maybe in somebody's living room, but a Maricopa Mesa chapter gets to start with the national team coming in and a town hall with all your elected leaders and even your state superintendent. So we really want this chapter to be strong. If you did not fill out a join card and you want to be part of that chapter, we've got stacks of join cards if you want to fill them out. That way they can get in touch with you after tonight and you can be part of the chapter. Okay, next up, I am excited to introduce the first speaker of the evening. And that is a man that I did not know until I called him a couple weeks ago and asked him to come speak. But boy, am I blown away by his resume. Most of you probably know him because it sounds like he's been serving the state of Arizona for a long time. It says he served 24 years in the state's third largest school district board, 10 years as the president. He has served each branch of government in the state of Arizona, the executive branch, the legislative branch, the judicial branch, and of course as a local school board member. Not only that, he's a classical pianist, which is just remarkable. He is a magna cum laude graduate of Harvard and Harvard Law School, so a very remarkable man, and I would like to turn it over to him, your state superintendent, Tom Horne.
Thank you. It's great to be here. We all share the goal of electing conservatives to school boards, and I'll be talking about that. That's going to be my main occupation for 2024. Some of you know that when I'm not in public service, I'm a lawyer. So I'm going to tell you guys a story about lawyers. A lawyer, a doctor, and an engineer got into an argument about which of those three belong to the oldest profession. So the doctor said, well, God made Eve out of a rib of Adam, and that was the first surgery, so medicine's the oldest profession. The engineer said, yes, but God created the heavens out of the chaos, and that's a great work of engineering, so engineering is the oldest profession. And the lawyer said, well, who do you think created the chaos? As you'll hear a little bit later in my talk, there are some benefits to having a trial lawyer as superintendent, willing to fight the federal government, willing to fight the teachers' unions, and so on. When I announced that I was running for superintendent again, I had served from 2003 to 2011, and then I had been the Attorney General. And last year I announced I was running for superintendent again. And my friend said to me, "Tom, you're crazy. First, you make a hell of a lot less money as in public office than you do as a lawyer. And secondly, you are the Attorney General. You're going backwards." And my answer was, no, the biggest problem right now is in our schools, and it's something I have to work on. And that was my reason for running. So what was it that upset me so much? Under my predecessor, there was no emphasis on academics. There was an emphasis on a lot of distractions that I'll be mentioning. And so our proficiency rate became terrible. 2/3 of our students are not proficient in math, and 60% were not proficient in reading. If you can imagine that, 60% not proficient in reading. And this is not the fault of COVID primarily, because the numbers were low before COVID. It's a problem of leadership. The focus was not on academics, it was on distractions. Critical race theory, excessive social emotional learning, inappropriate sexual stuff, and so on. And talking about critical race theory, here we are in Mesa. As you know, some of you know, I set up a hotline so parents could communicate with us. And the most interesting email I got was not from a parent, but from a Mesa teacher complaining against their professional development here. And she sent us a picture of a visual that said in so many words that the United States was a white supremacist country. So I know we've got some Mesa candidates for school board here. We have to do everything we can to help them. It's totally out of control here. It's totally out of control in a lot of places around the state. We've got to get the focus on academics and away from distractions. I have one obsession, and all 600 people in my department know that, and they are all working on it. If they did something else under prior administration, they have to change. My obsession is we have to raise the academic performance of our students. Thank you. Now, the first time I said this in a speech, my wife said to me, "I thought I was your obsession." So I said, "In that part of my life, you are my obsession. But this is on the academic part of my life." China is #1 in international tests. The United States is number 25, and the future belongs to the educated. So if we don't turn this around as a country, we are going to be the new third world country. We'll be another Ghana. China will be the dominant power, and China will be calling the shots, if you can imagine that, what kind of world that will be. We have got to dedicate ourselves to getting the schools to teach our students the academics bell to bell. No more playing. I mean, my heroes are teachers who love, science teachers who love science, history teachers who love history, and so on. And they've complained to me they want to teach their subjects bell to bell because they love their subjects, but under the prior administration's ideology of social emotional learning, administrators forced them to play what they described to me as dumb games during class time. There was a professor at a Midwest university who did a federally funded study on time on task, and he concluded that the more time students spend learning something, the more they learn of it. And his mother said to him, "You needed a federally funded study to tell you that?" We have to have our kids studying their academics bell to bell. And under the ideology of my predecessor, they weren't doing that, and I ran to put a stop to that and get our slogan is every instructional minute is precious. They've got to be teaching the academics. Many of you saw my signs in the last election. We put up my volunteers and I put up 1,400 signs, and they said three things: my name, stop critical race theory, and empower parents. So let's talk a little bit about ESAs. That was an issue in our campaign. My predecessor was against them, I was for them. I believe that people at all economic levels should have the same abilities and choices for their children that rich people have always had. And the ESAs give them that ability. Now, I get attacked a lot for that, and people say you're hurting the public schools, you're taking money from the public schools. Well, if public schools lose people to a private school, they lose the money, but they also lose the expense of teaching that student. What's important is not the total amount of money, it's the amount of money per pupil, and the amount of money per pupil does not change. And the other thing is, and I'm a public school guy, all my 4 children were public school people, and they did very well. And I believe that ESAs will improve our public schools because competition improves everyone. That's why the United States was prosperous and the Soviet Union was poor, because we have competition where people work hard, we produce a lot, and we're a rich country. In the Soviet Union, they were a government monopoly. And as they used to say in Poland, we pretend to work and they pretend to pay us. And with that philosophy, you don't produce much and you're a poor country. And I'll tell you a story. When I served on the school board, I used to do the negotiating with the teachers. And one year, the teachers' union said to me, we want you to eliminate the advanced placement courses that weren't filled up because there weren't enough students who qualified. So the classes are too small, it's inefficient, you need to use the money for something else. And I said to them, if you do that, you will lose your best students to the charter schools. And that stopped the discussion, and they never raised it again. Because the fact that we weren't a government monopoly anymore, we had competition, caused us to do our very best to succeed in our academics so the students would stay in our schools. And if a school is afraid of losing a student to a private school, the answer is work harder, produce better academics, and the parents won't want the student to move in that case. I mentioned the advantages of having a trial lawyer as superintendent of schools, and one of the things I was always willing to do is to take on the federal government. So I'll give you a couple of examples. When I took office in 2003, I inherited a system whereby in determining whether students should be English language learners, they were asked 4 questions. I thought it should be just one question: what's the dominant language of the student? But they had 4 questions, one of which was, does anybody in your family speak a different language? So I got a complaint from the Navajos because the kids who spoke only English, was their only subject, would answer, yeah, my grandma speaks Navajo. They would then test them. They would fail the test not because of language, English was their only language, but because of academics. They put them in an English language learner class that was taught in Spanish. You can imagine how the Navajos felt about that. So I changed it to one question: what's the dominant language of the student? So the federal government, the idiots in the federal government came after me, said, you're discriminating against these kids, there are not as many being identified as English language learners. So I said, you know what, if you want to influence what I do, sue me. I'll meet you in the courthouse, I know where it is. And you know what, they didn't. Another example was, we wanted teachers who are teaching English to be able to speak proper English. So we had those who didn't teach something else. So the federal government said, you're discriminating against these poor people because of their accent. And I said the same thing. You want to change what I do, sue me and I'll meet you in the courthouse. And they didn't. But my successor didn't have my feisty personality, and he conceded on all that stuff. So you need a superintendent who's willing to fight. Let's talk about another distraction: inappropriate sexual materials. Our legislature passed a law that said biological boys cannot play in girls' sports, which I believe in very strongly. In fact, I've been emotional about this topic ever since someone named Renee Richards. Anybody remember Renee Richards? Was a male tennis player back around 1970 or so, who decided to announce that he was now a woman and he wanted to play against the women. The league wouldn't take him, and some crazy federal judge forced them to take, which I thought was a terrible injustice. We read all the time in the newspaper about girls who work hard on their sports with dreams of making the varsity team or maybe getting a college scholarship or maybe the Olympics, and then all of a sudden they come up against a biological male and they can't compete, and so their dreams are shattered and they're devastated. And why isn't there compassion for them? So I believe very strongly in this. Some radical groups, a New York law firm for lesbians and a New York law firm for for gays in general, brought a lawsuit to declare our statute unconstitutional. And they sued 4 people, and I was one of them. The other 3 conceded, said, we agree with the plaintiffs, let them play. So I was defending it by myself. The legislature has helped out as an intervener, but I'm the only party who stayed in that case. And we're fighting like hell. As the governor of Arkansas said, we're involved in a war between the normal and the crazy. And I'm the only statewide official in this state that is fighting against the crazy. Now, I didn't just defend. As some of you have seen in the paper, I've sued the governor and the attorney general. That was a fun thing to do. And I sued them over English language learners because the data shows English language learners do best if they're in structured English immersion, not if they're in dual language. When I took office in 2003, there had been an initiative passed in 2000 saying we have to have structured English immersion. It hadn't been enforced by my 2 predecessors. I was the first one to enforce it. Lisa Graham Keegan, one of my predecessors, had told the legislature that the rate of students becoming proficient in English under bilingual education was a pathetic 4%. At that rate, most of them would never learn English, and they'd fail in the economy. I brought in structured English immersion. We got it up to 31%. So the data shows that that's what's good for them. But the people who are for dual language don't care about the academic success of the kids. They care about ideology. And unfortunately, our Attorney General and our Governor are 2 of those people that are ideologically committed to dual language, even though the data shows what's good for the kids is structured English immersion, and even though the law requires it because it was a voter-protected initiative that established it. So, so I've sued them, and I hope by that process to put a stop. There are about 9 school districts who are still doing dual language. We need to put a stop to it for the students. Now, I told you about my academic obsession, and I told you about my family obsession. There's a third obsession I want to tell you about, and that's my political obsession. I'm not up for re-election until 2026. So what am I going to do in 2024? If there's an election I'm going to be involved. So my obsession in 2024 is to get conservatives elected to our school boards. I'm an honorary chairman of an organization raising money for conservatives running for school boards in Arizona, and I wrote and signed the fundraising letter for them. I'm involved with another group doing the same thing. I'm hoping they'll all consolidate together, but I will spare no effort because we have a lot of conservative communities in this state that have extremely left-wing school boards. How did it happen? The teachers' union get left-wing teachers to run in the districts not where they teach but where they live. And they spend a lot of money on them. And so we have places, Paradise Valley, Scottsdale, Chandler, Mesa, Gilbert, conservative communities with extreme left-wing school boards. And we got to put a stop to it because this is a local control state and they control a lot. And what's going on is just outrageous. Chandler just eliminated their advanced placement courses. They adopted, believe it or not, equity math. You know, there are people in the colleges who say traditional mathematics is a male, chauvinist, phallocentric, imperialistic plot, and we got to put a stop to this craziness. So I ask everybody here, please participate, either run or support someone who's running. I'll do everything I can to help you. We have got to get conservatives elected to our school boards. I would love to stay for the whole meeting, but my wife had back surgery recently, so I have to get home and take care of her. But thank you so much for having me speak here. I'm very much in common with you in what we value. Thank you.
I'm much shorter than he is. What a great state superintendent. I'm so impressed with you, sir. That he's willing to get involved in school board races and put his knowledge, his experience, his name behind just local candidates is remarkable. Our governor in the state of Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis, did the same with a lot of our endorsed candidates last year, and we were able to carry 43 wins out of 65 candidates in the state of Florida. Just another note, Moms for Liberty chapters endorsed 500 school board races last year across the country without a dollar behind any of those races except for in Florida. We won 275 of those seats. So when parents want to take their school boards back, they absolutely can, but you have to get involved. You have to get out and knock doors. You have to be part of the campaign, and you have to work with candidates that you believe in. I have the honor next of introducing my very good friend, Mary Millben. Mary is a story of the American dream and one of the world's most celebrated voices. She's a former White House presidential appointee for George W. Bush. But now she has a professional music career rooted in God and American patriotism. Mary has performed for 4 consecutive presidents, international royalty, and world leaders. She has been featured at the White House. She has been featured in the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, but most importantly, Mary has been featured as our national anthem singer at our last 2 national summits for Moms for Liberty. So she is a good friend of Moms for Liberty. I know, she's an amazing woman. But she's not here to sing tonight. The kids overruled her, and they sang the national anthem. She actually asked to speak to you all tonight, which I was not going to turn down that opportunity, because this is a woman of God who speaks with the power of God. So get ready for a little church, I'm guessing.
Well, let's hear it for Tina. I tell you.
That's my friend, Mary.
I love this gal. She's my dear friend. And I hate bios, so that's why I walked up here, because who cares about all that stuff? But anyhow, I am so proud, I want to say that publicly, of Tina. In their absence, Tiffany and Marie, the other co-founders of Moms for Liberty. I'm so proud of my friend. I have been so blessed to watch Tina and Tiffany and Marie and these incredible moms, now dads, grandparents, guardians, all of them, start this movement, grassroots, in their homes, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, start in their homes with a few friends and blocks, and now here they are, 300 chapters across America, 47 states, over 130,000 moms. I mean, it's amazing. That's America, folks. And so I'm so happy to be here, not singing, amen, and the beautiful children. I love to see children sing the anthem, sing our patriotic music. I know you all appreciate those songs here in Arizona, and so it was a blessing to see the family sing. But Tina, I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of Moms for Liberty, what you're doing across America. The women, the moms, the dads, the grandparents, the guardians, the uncles, the aunts, everybody, as we say in church, everybody and la-di-da-di, everybody is a part of this great movement. You all really are boots on the ground for truth and freedom in America. So I'm so glad to be here, and so great to meet so many of you before. And Tina's right. I'm a preacher's kid, so I equate everything to church and God and country. And I tell you, town halls the town halls that I have been invited to come to, they've always been successful when everybody in the room feels like family, right? Now, Arizona is a very unique state because this is a family state. It's communal. This is real America, not like all the crazy Yankees up in New York and, on the East Coast, but where I live. But I tell you, it's such a communal state. So I just want to do a little something because you have some speakers coming and you'll be sitting for a while. So I thought, why don't we just have a little family moment like church? I'm going to be your glorified pastor right now. You are the lucky congregation. And you know what I love about whenever my father would get up to preach, before he would, because it would always probably be a long service, he'd always do a moment in the service where he would say, I want you to get up. I want you to talk to 3 people that you did not come in the car with, and tell them I'm glad to see you, and I'm glad that you came to the service today. So this is our service today. I want you to get up, stretch your legs a little bit, because it's going to be a little long later. Find 3 people you did not ride in the car with or that you do not know. Tell them that you are glad that they came to the town hall tonight, and together we are going to save America. Okay, 30 seconds. 3 people you do not know that you'd ride in the car with. You're glad they're here. We're going to save America together. Did you want this? All right, you got 30 more seconds. Find number 2 or number 3. Oh, I feel the energy in the room. I love it. Okay. All right, well, hopefully you found number 3. Find your seat. This is when the pastor starts clapping and saying, amen, hallelujah, find your seat, amen, amen, amen. I love to see the smiles. It's great. Well, hopefully you made some new friends in the room, and we are family now after that moment. And I tell you, it's what I love so much about Arizona, because Arizona is such a great state. It's a family state. It's a communal state. And by the end of any town hall, we're all family. I tell you, part of the reason why I love coming to Arizona is because it's real America. My family migrated here about 10 years ago, and I was a snowbird, so I would come during the good weather months, and Arizona really grew on me because of the people, because of you, and people here who love God, who love our country, which is the greatest country in the world. Amen. It is indeed. And who really believe in unifying together to save our country. So today, I want you to know, I really stand before you as a believer in you. I'm a believer in Tina and Moms for Liberty, but I want to say I'm a believer in you, moms, dads, grandparents, guardians, those that are on the front lines for our children and on the front lines for our country. And I'm a believer in the power of families. We are all united in this room together by the love of our children and our grandchildren and our unwavering commitment to their future. We, moms, dads, grandparents, guardians, uncles, aunts, together, we are a force to be reckoned with. That's what we say in the Moms for Liberty camp. We are a force to be reckoned with. We're the most important voice right now. We will be the most important voice and vote in this upcoming election. That's not a secret. That's a truth. And it is. And that's the power that Moms for Liberty, moms, dads, grandparents, guardians have right now as this parental rights movement is certainly underway. In the heart of the Grand Canyon State, we understand the importance of preserving the values that make this nation great. And again, I will say it again, this is a great nation, and America really is the greatest country in the world. I have the great privilege to travel all over this country and sing our national anthem and our patriotic music. And I see the beauty of America and eyes like yours and faces like yours and the families that are gathered. And in America, certainly here in Arizona, we know that freedom is not just a word. It's a way of life. It's our duty to protect and pass on this legacy to generations to follow. As parents and grandparents and guardians and family, we hold within us a very unique power. I loved how earlier when our chapter chairs here spoke about that power, the power to shape the minds and hearts of our children. We are their first teachers, their guiding lights, their unwavering support systems, and our influence in their lives is immeasurable. And what I love about all of our presidential candidates, certainly speaking across the airwaves, is they are reminding us all of that power, that we really do have the power in our vote, and our voices, and certainly in our efforts and our work every day on behalf of our children. But with power comes great responsibility. We must empower ourselves with knowledge. I believe that's why all of you all are in this room tonight. Stand together in unity and be fearless advocates for our children's education and their future. Our mission is to ensure that our children have access to the best education, free from bias and indoctrination. In a world where conformity sometimes seems easier than standing up for what's right, we are the torchbearers of truth. I want to say that again. We are the torchbearers. You say it. I am a torchbearer of truth. Say it. I am a torchbearer of truth. Yes. And we need truth. We need truth elevated right now in this time in our country. We prioritize correctness over conformity. We believe that by encouraging open debate, embracing non-conventional ideas, and being skeptical of everything, which is a good thing, we can navigate the complexities of our time. We are not bound by conventional limits. We can make practically anything happen if we want to, as moms and dads, parents, guardians, and grandparents. Parents, unconventional thinkers, often clear up complexities and avoid common traps in the mainstream thinking. Our commitment to our children's education knows no bounds. And so today, I really want to challenge all of you, every single person in this room, no matter if you're a mom or dad or grandparent, guardian, uncle, aunt, whomever you are. I want to challenge you to embrace this power, the power that we all have truly to save our country and truly to be the voice for our children. Embrace this power. Stand up for what is right. Speak truth. Be that torchbearer of truth. And be relentless in your pursuit of a brighter future for our children and grandchildren. We, all of us, can be the change that we want to really see in the world. Every mom, dad, grandparent, guardian in this room has a voice that can be a megaphone for truth. And there's no prerequisite to join this parental rights movement. That's what I love about what Tina and Moms for Liberty has assembled, that it doesn't matter who you are. You don't have to have held elected office. It doesn't matter what your resume says. It's okay if this is your first time speaking in public, and it's okay if you've never voted, although you're going to vote in this election, I'll tell you that. But absolutely. But there's no prerequisite. The only prerequisite to be a part of the parental rights movement, and certainly to be a part of Moms for Liberty, if I can speak for Tina, is you have to believe that what is most important is truth over false. What's most important is right over wrong. And you have to most of all believe that we are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's the prerequisites in this parental rights movement. That's what I have heard and seen all over this country. It doesn't matter about all those other things. All we need, every single person in this room, I know believes in truth over false, believes in right over wrong, and believes that we are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I hope that before you leave tonight that you say yes, that you join the parental rights movement, even furthermore, that you join Moms for Liberty and be a part of this. Our country, our kids, our future truly depends on your yes. Thanks for letting me come and speak with you tonight. God bless you. God bless the state of Arizona, and may God bless the United States of America. God bless you all.
Good night. Good evening. Sorry. It's difficult to match this beautiful speech. Great speech, Mary. And I present myself. My name is Catalina Stube. I came to this country 13 years ago, and this is what I was expecting. Beautiful Americans ready to defend, promote, and defend our American values. Even if I just learn Spanish, this great organization embrace all my difference, and this is why it's inspiring me every day. Thank you, Tina. Thank you also, Tiffany Chisno here, to allow me to be myself and to join this army of God, defending parental rights, defending the innocence and integrity of our children. So I am the National Hispanic Outreach Director, and if any of you, there is any Hispanics in the room now? Oh, gracias por venir. Thank you. And thank you. So I just want to let you know that tomorrow we are going to have a great event just for Hispanics. If you want more information, please let me know that we can share with them, because it's going to be all in Spanish. Now I have a great privilege to introduce you a great leader, a great person. Jason Bedrick, a research fellow in the Center for Education Policy at the Heritage Foundation, where he focuses on policies that promote education, freedom, and choice, religious liberty, classic education, and restoring the primary role of families in education. He is the co-editor and co-author of 2 books, including Educational Freedom, which provides conservative solution to the problems created by the ever-expanding federal footprint in preschool, K-12, and higher education. His research on education policy has been published by numerous national and state-level think tanks. His writings have also appeared in the Wall Street Journal, Newsweek, Fox News, among many other publications. Bedrick currently serves on the board of directors for the Education Freedom Institute. He previously served as a legislator in the New Hampshire House of Representatives. He received his master's degrees in public policy at Harvard University. And the most important thing, he resides in Phoenix with his wife and beautiful 5 children. Please welcome Jason Bedrick.
All right. Good evening, fellow anti-government extremists. Did anybody see the Arizona Republic article today? No, of course you didn't, but I did. I looked it up, and of course, you know, as is custom these days, it has to start with, you know, oh, the Southern Poverty Law Center says a bunch of hateful, wacky, crazy extremists, so on and so forth. And so I'm supposed to talk to you tonight about school boards and school choice, but I'm going to go off script a little bit first, and I want to address the press. So, ladies, feel free to talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you a topic. Gender-affirming care is neither affirming nor care. So discuss. I know, to the press, I know what you're thinking. You're wondering, what is this rabbi doing speaking to a group of Nazis? And so, first of all, I'm not a rabbi. I'm just a Jew with a beard and a funny hat. But I know why you're asking the question. You're asking the question because a lot of your colleagues have been lying. Lying about Moms for Liberty, lying about the wonderful group of patriotic, joyful warriors in this room. And it really upsets me. But I know what you're saying. Well, wait, they're book banners, right? They're book banners, just like the Nazis. Ladies, ban any good books lately? What's your success rate on book banning? 0%, right? Okay, all the books that get us upset, whether it's Lawn Boy or Genderqueer or what have you, you can get every single one of those on Amazon. You can get any single one of those at Barnes & Noble, at your local public library. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about curation, age-appropriate curation in public school libraries for children. Now, if something is not in one of those libraries, that means it's banned, then 99.99% of all books that have ever been published are banned, okay? We are not talking about Romeo and Juliet, right? Everybody agrees Romeo and Juliet belongs in the school. Everybody agrees Hustler does not. And then we can have a reasonable debate about where to draw the line. Tiffany Justice said, we're not looking to ban any books. Our moms are saying write the book, publish the book, print the book, sell the book wherever you'd like to sell it, but don't put it in a public school library if it has explicit sexual content in it. I mean, real, wacky, extremist stuff. But you're saying, well, but wait a second, but they quoted Hitler, right? There was one chapter in Indiana, and they had a publication, and they quoted Hitler. You and the press should know that quoting is not the same thing as endorsing, right? You quote Donald Trump all the time. If you quote Donald Trump, does that make you a Republican? No. If I quote Joe Biden, does that make me senile? No. So, and what was the quote? What was the quote? The Hitler quote was, "He alone who owns the youth gains the future." And they said, well, it seemed like they were endorsing this idea. Really? what is that quote over there? The motto of this group is, "We don't co-parent with the government." That is like the exact opposite of the Hitler quote. It was very clear to anybody with half a brain that what they were doing was giving an example of something that they opposed. Now, the national leadership of Moms for Liberty did put out an apology saying parents are passionate about protecting future generations from tyranny, but Hitler did not need to be quoted to make that point. Granted, we could use with a lot less Holocaust imagery and comparisons these days on all sides, and so it's a point well taken. But I want to make one last point to the media about this, okay? Because sometimes they're called Nazis because they oppose CRT, right? Both, and now this is really going to blow the minds of the press, both Moms for Liberty and the proponents of CRT are the opposite of the Nazis, but in very different and fundamentally important ways, okay? So what was the Nazi view on race? The Nazis believe that race is one of the most important characteristics that defines your identity, that race is something real. In their view, it's biological, it's immutable, it's not just some social construct like gender. And the Nazis said there are good races and there are bad races, okay? The good race is namely the white race, the bad races, namely everybody else. And so the Nazis taught people to hate blacks and gypsies and especially Jews. Now, the proponents of CRT, they try to be the opposite of the Nazis, but really they end up being the flip side of the coin, because they also say that race is one of the most important things that defines your identity. And while they don't exactly claim that there are good races or bad races, they too often divide us into categories, oppressor versus oppressed, based solely on our skin color. And so, all too often, CRT teaches people to have ill will towards certain groups, including whites, Asians, and especially Jews. Meanwhile, Moms for Liberty takes a very different approach. They hold that all men and women are created equal because they are created in God's image. And they believe that people should be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Again, real radical extremist stuff. And so that answers the question. That's why I'm proud to speak to Moms for Liberty. Okay, is my time up? Do I have time to actually get into so what I actually wanted to talk to you about tonight, though, is this question of school boards and school choice, right? Do we put our efforts into going and taking over the school boards? There's all sorts of crazy stuff going on in the schools. We got to take back the school boards. Or do we say, you know what? The government school system, it's too far gone. Let's just abandon it. Let's go build our own private schools, micro schools, homeschool communities that reflect our values, right? And so there's this tension there. And my answer to this question, school boards or school choice, is a resounding, unequivocal yes. Yeah. So, like the great philosopher Yogi Berra said, when you come to the fork in the road, take it. Now, to those who say that district schools are too far gone, we can't abandon them. Even here in Arizona, which has the most robust school choice environment in the entire country, right? About 20% of kids are in charter schools, 7 or 8% of kids are in private schools or homeschooling. You still have, about 7 out of 10 kids are in the public school system. We cannot abandon those children. We owe it to them to fight for them. And frankly, the future of our country is at stake. We can't surrender another generation of children to the radical ideology that is infecting our government school system. But the other side says, you know what? We need to just go all in on the school boards, and school choice is a distraction. When people have an exit option, it sort of turns the temperature down. We need to be like those Spanish conquistadors that burnt the boats, right? So you have no choice but to fight. And I appreciate that, I can understand it, but I just think that tactic, it asks too much of families, right? We're talking here about children, not soldiers, and some government schools are just too far gone, and the only hope that parents have is to have that exit option. We can't expect that parents are going to be sacrificing their children at the altar of wokeness just to save another school or two. And so we really have to do both. It's both and, not either or. Fortunately, though, these two tactics actually do go hand in hand. And here's why. There was a great social scientist, Alberto Hirschman, who talked about exit and voice. And at first, he actually thought that these were sort of opposite strategies, and then he realized later on in life that they went together, right? If you have if you had a restaurant, you have two options. If the restaurant starts to decline in quality, you can either speak to the manager and tell them that something's going wrong, or you can leave and go somewhere else. But what happens when there's only one restaurant in town? When they have a captive audience, when they know you have no other choices, you have nowhere else to go, you don't have the same sort of leverage that you have if the people that you're speaking to at the school board know that if you're not happy, you can go somewhere else, take your child and their money with them. And so actually, there's some synergy for these two strategies. So again, we need to do both. I'll wrap up because I see them. We're running a little late. Taking back control of school boards and pushing for school choice, fine. There is no more effective organization in the country today fighting to take back our schools and to advance and defend education freedom than Moms for Liberty. So I'm incredibly grateful for all the work that you do, for inviting me here to speak. May God bless you, and may God bless the work of your hands. Have a good night. Thank you.
Wow, what a great group of people we have tonight. Well, my name's Byron Clark, and it's a thrill to have you guys here. I am here on behalf of the Leadership Institute. We are based primarily in, Arlington, Virginia. And I actually am here representing with a colleague of mine the School Board Leaders Program we have, and we are based in Sarasota, Florida. Brief background, my background's in national security, international relations. But I'm also formerly a public school teacher. I came back, my youngest sister, there's a 12-year gap, came home from living in West Africa and working there, asked how school was going, and she gave me a lecture on how the U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights needs to be amended because it no longer fits our life today, and I about had a heart attack. My mom is Department of Defense, and so I was like, what in the world is going on? So did a 180, came back to my home state, did a transition to teach program because I already had a bachelor's, got my master's in education, and spent the last 4 years teaching. I started my first year teaching fall of 2019, just in time for Marxism to roll out in full force with the pandemic. So my wife is also a former public school teacher. She now stays home with our 17-month-old. I just want to invite you guys to really dig into Moms for Liberty and also the Leadership Institute. We have a school board leaders program where we offer support and training to equip you and your community members, free, by the way, to be educated and equipped to be involved locally. We train activists, and we're retaking that word from the political left. We also train for you to run for office, especially school boards. Not only that, we train you in how to govern. A lot of times you can get elected, you get there, and you're like, now what? Right? Policy takes a long time. And most importantly, we train you guys, the supporters. You guys are the absolute reason why things get done in the long term. So check us out. We are the Leadership Institute. We've been training conservatives since 1979, and we are open to all. We are a 501c3. Anyone who wants to learn, we welcome that. So anyway, thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you to the representatives and senators and the speakers. We are thrilled to be here. And Tina, thank you for all the work you're doing across the country. Thank you, guys.
If our panel, is this on? Do I need to turn it on? Is it on? Oh, it's on. Thank you. If our panel, our two representatives and two state senators could come up and take a seat and join us. We are now going to get into the meat of this discussion. I'm going to give each of you about 3 minutes to kind of introduce yourself and say a few words. Then we'll kick it off with a question or two, and then we're going to open it up to you all to ask questions and have a discussion on education. Okay, sir, would you like to start?
I'll go first, yes. So nice to meet everybody. I am Jake Hoffman. I serve as the state senator for Legislative District 15, which is, yeah, there you go. Thank you. Yeah, so that's, I know, the greatest district ever. No, there's many great districts. Many great districts. Well, look, I get to do a little bragging because I'm also the founding chairman of the Arizona Freedom Caucus. And I'm proud to say that every elected representative on this stage is a member of the Freedom Caucus. Now look, a little bit of background that you may not know. Education is near and dear to my heart, my family's heart. My wife was a public school teacher for almost 10 years, saw the corruption that is in the school districts firsthand, watched the corruption in the union, fight for teachers that had molested children, that had gotten very inappropriate with children, that had hit children, and then watched the union abandon teachers that actually did their job well and taught real American values in the classroom when the school district came after them. I served my first elected office. I was first elected in 2012, and I served on the Higley Unified School District Governing Board. And I'll tell you, yeah, thank you. I mean, look, the school board members now have it way harder than I had it. But the reality is that the problems in education, while they look different today, they're in your face now because the Marxists have taken their masks off, you know, and it's so sad to watch, but they've become so extreme and so insidious, and quite honestly, in some cases, when we talk about, you know, the social emotional learning where they're trying to co-opt these children's minds, when we talk about the CSE, the comprehensive sexuality education, where they are sexualizing children as young as kindergarten in some cases, they really have gotten out of control. But the reality is that the system has always been corrupt. And I know that sounds hard to hear, right? There is this phenomenon that I think exists called reminiscent nostalgia. We reminisce as folks who went to public schools 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. We reminisce and we have that nostalgia for what it used to be when we were there, okay? But I'll tell you this is how I'm gonna end my comment, then I'll turn it over to Senator Wadsack. When I was on the school board in Higley, I was hated. I was hated because I actually stood up for students and for parents and families and for taxpayers and for teachers. And the system did everything it could to try and beat me down, and I refused every attempt, and I feel proud to tell you this, I was vindicated because the superintendent that I was butting heads with and that I was antagonizing and pursuing was actually recently indicted on 27 felony counts with 3 co-conspirators for public corruption on the very issues that I was pursuing when I was on the school board.
Senator, you want to take a few minutes to introduce yourself?
I don't know if I can go after that. That's pretty amazing. I think we all come from a different place. Senator Hoffman has been doing this a lot longer than I have. But back in 2016, the state tried to take my children. And so I had to fight DCS. I had to fight DES. And in doing that, I sued the government. I sued the governor. I sued the attorney general. And eventually, I felt they weren't doing enough, so I fired my attorney, and I basically reached out to the government and said, you're in violation of all these laws, and you have 12 hours or 24 hours to get back to me, or I'm coming for you. And guess what? Within 12 hours, they came back to me, and they restored all my rights because I stood up to them. And in learning that, I became an activist, but I also became an advocate, and I believe you have to be a little bit of both in order to be a public servant. So my activism was I basically started going to the school board meetings and holding their feet to the fire. I would start reciting Arizona statute and ADA, and I know you, Kirk, how are you? I haven't seen you in a while. I mean, we were fighters from the beginning, and this is, going into this in 2019, when CSE was prevalent, when we were learning all about the Kinsey method and all about GLSEN, and Purple for Parents went in and did storm the Department of Education, and we got Kathy Hoffman to turn her little CSE program around. Then we went into TUSD, which is my area. I'm Tucson. And going into Tucson, which is deemed a Democrat district, Democrat county, I think they're lying to everybody because it's not. We have so many conservative parents out there, especially the Hispanics. And when we put out on Mexican radio, Hispanic radio, so it was in Spanish speaking, that they were coming for their children for sex ed, that place filled up the next night. And all I can tell you is all I heard forever was, "We vote no, we vote no." There was a mariachi band. And I'm not kidding, I have video. But we stopped it for a little while before TUSD in the middle of the night went and passed it anyway. So we started to learn that we had to start fighting. And then in 2020, what happened? The masks. We had 3 children in the Vail School District commit suicide. One of them sent a text message saying, "I cannot live in a masked society," climbed up to the top of the bleachers and swan dived on his head. Many, many children suffered. So I went to that Vail School District meeting, and we basically told the school district, "You are wrong, you cannot do this." We held their feet to the fire. They freaked out, hid in a closet, disappeared through the back door and told the sheriff's department that they quit, that they all resigned. So we elected our own school board off the floor that night, and I think you guys heard about that. Now, it wasn't that night made history. It went to Dan Bongino, David J. Harris, then Ron Paul got a hold of it, took it to Virginia, taught Youngkin about it, and they realized that parents' rights needed to be the #1 issue, and they turned Virginia red that year. So we started a parents' rights revolution in Little Tucson, Arizona. And I'm very proud of that fact. So parents' rights is a big deal for me. I'm going to have ARS 1602 tattooed on my body or my arm somewhere. So when I come up to a parent, I can just say, this is it right here, ARS 1602. My dream is to put teeth to that bill, because right now you can walk into a school board meeting and they call the police on us because they call us terrorists, right? I want to be able to say, if you call the police on me because I'm a parent here, or I'm somebody in the community fighting at this school board meeting for my children and my community's rights, you're going to be one charged with a felony or a misdemeanor because you're going against my rights, and I'm a huge proponent of parents' rights. So I just want to say thank you. I mean, I did, Senator Hoffman and I were very big on the books in our legislation this year. And I did get a bill to the governor's desk, what was supposed to be their, Democrats call it the book ban bill, but she vetoed it. She also vetoed Drag Queens Story Hour, basically in government buildings. So we have a lot of work to do, don't we? You know, so you are looking at the people right here that are the champions, and we're fierce, and we are ready to keep fighting.
Thank you. I am Representative Justine Heap, representing LD10. You are in LD10 right now. So welcome to the district. We're very glad to have all of you here. Education's always been an important thing to me. I got a bachelor's degree in college, went on and got a master's degree, and I had actually planned to become a teacher. And then through a series of terrible life choices, I went to law school instead. And then all these years later, through an even worse series of decisions, I decided to run for the legislature. So I find myself in the awkward position of being a lawyer who dislikes lawyers and a politician who hates politicians. But here we are. That's the America that has compelled a lot of us to get involved. There's a saying in politics, obviously it's a military analogy, but it says, if you're taking flak, it means you're over the target. And here's the reality. The reason why events like this need to be disparaged in the media, why liberal voices, teachers' unions, school districts need to castigate events like this and label us dangerous, extremist, radical, and to try to diminish the message is because we're over the target. Because they know that education, wanting a good education for our children, is something that unites all Americans, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Democrats, Republicans, independents, everybody wants good schools and wants their kids to get a good education. And people care. And whenever across the country we see a fight between the school districts and the parents win. So the reality is we have a tremendous amount of power, and that's why we get so much flack. Because the reality is that this message has the power to transform whole states. As Representative Wadsack said, the last time this became a major national issue was the election in Virginia. And Virginia was on the verge of becoming a permanent blue state. And then the issue of parents' rights came up. And the Democratic governor doubled down and stood with the teachers' unions and with the school districts. And in one election, that state swung 21 points red. Okay? This is the most powerful message that charges up voters across all of the spectrum. And we have that power, and we need to take it back. So why do we often not do it? Why don't we understand it? Well, I think Senator Hoffman hit on it when he said we all have a sense of nostalgia about our own childhood. We remember our time in school growing up when everything seemed easier, and we just assume that our kids are growing up in that same America that we had, that they're getting the same education that we had. And when we hear news stories about crazy things happening all over the country, we think immediately, well, not in my school. That's not happening where my kids get educated. And that was the wake-up call for me. I'm going to take just a minute to play this for you. This was recorded by my son in his 9th grade American English classroom in a school about 3 miles down the road from here. The topic was the Iranian Revolution, and the teacher decided to expostulate on whether the Iranians were right to call America the Great Satan. And this is what he told his classroom.
The Iranians probably justified in this viewpoint. Our conduct in the Vietnam War, did it earn us any favors? Does anybody, we've literally melted children with Agent Orange. We put bullets in their heads. We killed screaming mothers and old men and buried them in ditches. Are the Iranians probably, in 1979, probably fairly justified in this viewpoint in the United States? If you're a religious person and you know that somebody put a bullet in the head of a defenseless child, do you think they're going to go to heaven? Right? So again, I ask you, them calling us the Great Satan, pretty easy to see why they have the opinion of us that they do. That we forcibly dominated their country for decades with people they did not want. We conducted ourselves in a horrible manner in the Vietnam War. There's no real question about it. Why the Iranians would, from the founding of their country, just vehemently hate the United States. It makes sense. We did bad things to them, and we did a lot of bad things around the world in the same time period. There's no mistaking why they hate us.
Well, as you can imagine, I ran down to that school like 90 miles an hour and yanked the principal out into the hallway. And to their credit, the school took it very seriously. This teacher was disciplined and placed on academic probation. All of his lesson plans now have to be done by a member of the administration sitting there. And so I'm glad it was there, but here's the point, guys. This is not happening in crazy schools somewhere in San Francisco. It's in your school, and yours. These are our kids. They are not the products of the state. Okay? If the school districts want to co-parent my children, then I'm going to need them to pick up some of my household bills. They do not have the right to do what they are doing, and they are raising a generation to believe that there is nothing of value in the United States, that there is nothing to be proud of. This will lead to the downfall of our civilization if we do not take this seriously. And the power is right here. It's in this room. We can change this if we unite. and we can bring parents from every political spectrum, every walk of life, every race, creed, together behind this message, because everybody cares about our schools. So let's save them.
Well, as we say in politics, to that point, which is a common phrase, to that point, my activism in politics began in 1978 and 79 as a survivor of the Iranian Revolution. When they captured the American embassy, I was there and I survived it. And I would love to go into this history class and explain a very different story of someone who was an eyewitness to it. My background is in cardiovascular and intensive care nursing and psychology, and I've raised 4 teenagers, so I'm well equipped to be at the legislature. And I happen to also be a part-time adjunct professor of religion at ASU. So we do have some religion being taught there, I just want you to know, very few. But it's an honor, Tina, to be here. I can't tell you how honored I am to be here because my committees at the Capitol are in healthcare, water, and the very powerful Appropriations Committee. Healthcare and HHS is my main background. And yes, they want your children. And when the horrible things that are being done in the name of science to children, I am ashamed that we as medical professionals have allowed to happen what has happened in both psychology and healthcare. And that's why I got down there, is to stop destroying your civil liberties in the name of pseudoscience. And they are still trying to do that. But I was you 30 years ago. I was that parent advocate who was at every school board meeting. I was on the committees. I know I hardly look 30. I know what you're saying. But 30 years ago, I was fighting this fight. And there was nothing like this kind of support. Never. I was a heretic, okay? I was reading every book that my children read, and when it was garbage, and there was some garbage that snuck in then and started, I opted my kids out of those books. I yanked them and went to the library and read with them. My children were so embarrassed and hated that. But I was going to be, not going to let them read trash that was assigned to them. And so I was a heretic, and my children hated that. Well, I know that you may not be aware, but my daughter, my oldest child, Jacqueline Parker, Representative Jacqueline Parker, thank you, please, she is the much more important Representative Parker. I know I raised her right, because she turned 18 halfway through the last semester of her senior year. One of her last classes was her AP Civics, AP Government required course. Well, it was about March, her birthday, and halfway through, and sure enough, she had had enough of that professor teaching their Marxism in a government civics class and their heretical Marxism, and she went up to the professor, this was unbeknownst to me, and said to the professor, "I am signing myself out of this class." And the teacher said, "You cannot do that." And she said, "Oh, yes, I can. I know the law, I know my rights, and I have a 4.5 GPA, I'm ranked number 3, I have a full ride academic scholarship to any university in the nation, and I don't need your class. And do you have any idea who my mother is?" Okay? Well, that's all she had to say. And he goes, "Here's your slip to audit and get out of the class, Jacqueline." Okay, you're done. I want to tell you that I feel like I'm so honored to be here. I'm not on the education committee, but like I said, this is a fight I feel like I've been fighting my whole life with my children and the schools. And it started many years ago. God bless the Mommy Lobby. God bless the grassroots brownies. You're making changes that we have not been able to make in government, and we need you. I do feel like we are standing on the shoulders of giants. I have to give a shout out for Rachel Walden. Is she back there?
Stand up, Rachel. Stand up.
Stand up, Rachel.
That's Rachel Walden. I have to tell you that Rachel's motto was academics build confidence, ABC. And I have to tell you, she is a champion down at the school board Do you want to see what courage looks like of a conservative school board member? It's her vote, 4-1, 4-1, 4-1. How hard is it to be one? God bless her for fighting that fight. I have to give a shout out. Like I said, I feel like I'm standing on the shoulders of giants who have been fighting this fight. And that's another, Rachel. If you see Rachel on your ballot, vote for them. Rachel, vote for them. Rachel Walden, and we have Rachel Mitchell, the Maricopa County Attorney. And you know what the end goal of the indoctrination and the sexualization and the pedophilia and the grooming of our children is? It is because these criminals seek out education and children. And we have a prosecutor who is fighting that and prosecuting those and stopping the grooming. And I have to tell you, she is a fighter. She has been listening to the concerns of parents. She's been on the fight for 30 years, protecting women and protecting children from sex crimes. As a county attorney, I think she's done an incredible job. She's going after the fentanyl traffickers that are after your children. She's locking up the dangerous people who commit these crimes in our neighborhood. And like I said, she is here to enforce the law, and that is the end result. They do want your children, and we need her fighting to put them away and stop it. So thank you, Maricopa County, Rachel Mitchell. And then one other legislator who should not ever be forgotten, if you value parent rights, let's build a monument to Senator Chuck Gray. Do you know that our Parental Bill of Rights is in Article 1 in our Arizona Revised Statute? Now, do you understand when we put something under a certain article, Article 1 is the general article? That means it is the umbrella. It encompasses every city, county, town, every bit. Our Parental Bill of Rights is Article 1. That means, parents, you have 100% control over everything to do with your children. Chuck Ray wrote the language, and a dear colleague of mine, he did it in 2010. Let me tell you the process. It took him 3 years in 2 houses, and it passed finally after 3 years of work. And you know, all of us that have worked hard on bills, it takes some time. It took 3 years. He got it passed in 2010 with 1 vote margin. And God bless him for doing it. And if you have not pulled it up, Article 1, 602, read it, and I have it. It gives you every power and every right. Don't let anybody tell you you don't. I
Get
recently...
it tattooed on your body.
What? Yeah. God bless him.
I'm going to.
We are fighting that fight today, and I asked him, I said, what was your inspiration? How were you so visionary? He said, I saw what was happening in California years before. I knew this was coming our way. He said, I knew that today you would be fighting this today. He said, I felt inspired by God to put that in stone in 2010. That's 24 years ago, the day of nostalgia. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. I've learned so much about all of you. What a fantastic panel we have up here tonight. In Florida also, we have passed a Parental Bill of Rights, and it took 3 years. I worked to support it when I was on the school board, watched it fail, watched it die on the Senate floor. It's devastating to see that happen. So God bless that man.
2010.
That's amazing for having that vision that early on. Moms for Liberty chapters are working across the country now to get a Parental Bill of Rights in every state. You guys are very blessed to have that in your Article 1, and that is remarkable. So good progress, you guys, good progress. I'm just going to ask one question, and then we're going to turn it over to the public and open up there. Looking at the stats, Superintendent Horne touched on this, but the state of education in Arizona is not much better than it is nationally, honestly. 4th graders in the state of Arizona, 31% are reading on grade level. When children are not reading on grade level by 3rd grade, everybody knows, everybody will admit, teachers union will even admit this, if they're not reading on grade level by 3rd grade, the chances of them graduating high school are slim, unless of course you're going to graduate them not being able to read, which it looks like from the stats, Arizona might also be doing some of that right now. Their chances of ending up in prison are high. So your fourth graders, 31% are reading on grade level, and 32% can do math on grade level. In comparison, just so you know, with the United States right now, 2/3 of American fourth graders are not reading on grade level, but we have the lowest reading scores in the United States since the 1980s, and we have the lowest math scores ever. So we have a crisis in public education right now, a real crisis. I'm glad you all are here because hopefully either you know that or you sensed that that might be happening, and you're here because you want to be involved and you want to make a difference. And then one of the reasons we started Moms for Liberty, I'm a former school board member, and so is Tiffany Justice, my co-founder. And what we saw is exactly what many of you had said. Parents had been kind of ignoring public education for decades. There has been somebody in charge of public education for decades, and it's been the teachers' unions. They have put us in this position, but I can't blame them solely, parents. Where have you been? I was a PTO president, volunteering in the classroom, making cupcakes, but I'd never been down to my school district. I didn't know what the school district policies were. I was volunteer of the year. I had 10,000 volunteer hours in my child's school. I did not know who my school board members were. So I'm to blame, you're to blame. Parents and taxpayers and community members are to blame because we have just let the teachers union own public education for decades. And the reason the people on this stage, Moms for Liberty, your state superintendent, are being called the names, being disparaged, being trashed, is because we're saying no more. No more, not on our watch. So my question to you all today is, I realize you're on different committees, not on education committee, but what are you going to do next in your position? Understanding that there's a lot of things that need to be handled at the school board level and on the local level, and some things at the federal level you can't really get involved in. What are you going to do in your position to help dig Arizona out and help get children to a place where your education stats are not this glib?
Let's go backwards. Barbara,
Good idea.
You want to start?
I would love to. And I'm very honored that I was very successful in getting bills passed this year. One bill that it just cuts to my heart, that I was so proud of, that got killed, that I do want to resurrect again, was that it was 2523, that the children have to say the Pledge of Allegiance in schools. Am I asking for anything terrible? It flew through the committees, and it was killed and held. I'm happy to be honest with you. It was killed and held by the chair of education, who's on my side of the aisle, who killed it and held it. And because the attitude was that we were mandating something, we're forcing. Well, it was interesting. He should have read the damn bill. Because I wrote it that it was a parents' rights bill. In fact, it gave you all the right to opt out, opt in. It was in fact, I had a California person come after me and with my bill in the press and say, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to empower parents more. And I said, yes, California Marxist, I am. And now we don't believe in more mandates and more legislation, but government can rein in government. The schools are a subsection of us. So we can tell the schools, yes, you will put a flag in your classroom, you will say the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'd like to resurrect that one. I do have one that I don't want to reveal too much. I am working with a Supreme Court justice, brilliant legal minds, to put in a Parents' Bill of Rights and Religious Liberty Holiday Bill that I believe is going to be fabulous. So you have the right, again, you already have the right. You already have the right to dictate the moral and religious upbringing of your children in every way. This is a bill that's going to strengthen that, strengthen religion, strengthen rights, and I'm very excited. It's going to be quite the fight to get that one through because it is very much religious freedom bill. So,
thank you.
You bet.
Well, there's a lot of different facets to the education problem. I'm a strong believer in the idea that the solution to most of the problems we have in our school is just greater transparency. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. The reality is that if parents know what is going on in their children's classrooms, the school districts will not dare to push the things that they are pushing through onto our kids. They do it because they are confident that it will not come back to them. My position is that if you ever believe or find yourself thinking that parents can't know what I am teaching their children, then you have no business being in education. So we need to push for just greater transparency. I have several bills I'm working on next year to try to expand transparency. I did pass a transparency bill last year that was vetoed by our benevolent Democratic governor. And that dealt specifically with teacher training. Because I think a lot of the issues we have in school is that parents, we often only see the end product. We do have fairly robust laws that allow parents to view the curriculum that their kids. They can see the books that they're reading. What they don't know is what's happening in the classroom and how the teachers are being trained to address the issues. So the bill I passed last year dealt with teacher training. And it was a straightforward transparency bill that said if a school district is going to mandate training for teachers, then on request of the parents, they have to make the training materials available for parents to see. The reason that I did that was that this was sent to me by our wonderful Rachel Walden back there. This is from 2020 and 2021. This is Mesa Public Schools. That's the district you're in right now. This is the largest school district in the state. We have almost 80,000 Arizona students. And in 2020, they passed a training guideline for their teachers that required their teachers to take the following training courses. And it was tied to their teacher salary. So in order to get their full performance pay, they had to take these following training modules. Let me go ahead and read you these training modules. Intersectionality, microaggressions, ethnicity, race. Quarter 2, unconscious bias, marginalization, folks with an X, still not 100% sure on that one, cisgender, Latinx. Quarter 3, internalized racism, neurotypical, neurodiverse, EDI, diversity and inclusion. In case you didn't get enough of it in the EDI class, there's also separate classes on diversity and inclusion. Quarter 4, anti-racism, dominant culture, non-binary, bias versus unconscious bias, BIPOC, that's Black, Indigenous, people of color, equality versus equity, anti-racism, again, I don't know why you need it twice, POC, people of color, privilege, and restorative justice. That's what you had to do to be a teacher in Mesa. What year? This was in 2020, running through the 2020-2021 year. I don't know what the curriculum is now, but I looked at this and said, this is insane. Because the things we teach our teachers will inevitably make its way into the classroom. And I am deeply concerned about how a teacher is going to view a classroom once she has seen these, once they have received this training. Now, my point is, my bill doesn't ban any of this kind of training. It's possible that maybe in some of these, I'm doubtful, but there might be helpful materials. I'm only saying, let us see it then. And immediately the cry was, we can't let you see it. These are third-party proprietary information. Parents cannot see it. The lobbies came out hard against this bill because they don't want transparency. That is what has to be our focus. Okay? Because everybody wants more transparency. Transparency is the solution to most problems we have with government. Okay? And this stuff is happening in the dark without parents being aware. So we're going to keep pushing for that transparency on every level we can.
Excellent, excellent. I just want to add to that, yes, transparency is vital, but if you all don't do anything when the stuff is exposed, it just falls flat. And so that's why it's necessary to be involved and be active. I know there's several different parents organizations out here tonight. Obviously, I'm promoting, my brand, but get involved. If Moms for Liberty is not for you, pick another team, but get a group of friends, get together, because once this stuff is exposed, once they do their job, you have to do your job as a responsible citizen. Thank you.
So I am the vice chair for the Senate Education Committee. I never thought I'd be here. If you told me this 5 years ago that I'd be sitting here as the vice chair of the Senate Education Committee, I would have thought you all were crazy. Back in 2018, Red for Ed did their big storming out, and they did it all in a very selfish manner. And I have 2 children that are disabled, that are both on IEPs, one of which she's 19 today, spoon-fed and in diapers, nonverbal, wheelchair-bound. So I was told by the schools, take her to a YMCA, take her to, the local church. Well, who's going to administer her drugs for all of her seizures that she has all day? She has 20 seizures a day. Who's going to take care of that? The school is supposed to be there for her. And the public school, the Red for Ed, the whole thing failed me. And that's when I became an activist. And so when I started running in 2019, people would say, what's your number one issue? I'd say parents' rights. And they'd go, all right, Justine, we understand life's hard for you. You have disabled children. School's great. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. And then 2020 happened. Suddenly, everybody realized that I was onto something with the whole public school failures. And I started getting bombarded with parents saying, you're the one who understands this. Do something about it. Okay, I'll just go out there and fix it tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. I had the activism. I had all these people. I had Purple for Parents, Mommy Lobby. I had all of these people out there working hard to get the word out that there was something wrong in the school districts. And then I get into my Senate committee where I'm the vice chair, and where did everybody go? There's nobody coming except for her. Miss Boggs.
Shelley Boggs, everybody.
Shelley Boggs. When I'm talking about my books and I'm trying to say, hey, we've got to do something about these illicit books that are in the K through 12, and she and Sharice Pierce showed up with a stack of books this tall and said they were ready to read each one of them right there in the committee. That gave me power, and it made us stronger. Just as you guys go and you go up to those school board meetings, I need you at the Senate committees. I need you all sign up for the request to speak. And anytime there's a day for education, you need you to learn the bills that are being heard in education. I need you to come and fight with me because I can't do it by myself. Now, I did get a parents' rights slightly. It was watered down by another senator. And it was to basically make it so that if something goes wrong in the schools, the parents can go and take that complaint to the Board of Education and say, we need to do something about this, and we need action. Because what have we all been doing a lot of? Complaining. We've done a lot of finding that there's a problem over here, but then where does it go for a solution? And I'm ready for solutions because I've been at this for, I've been at this since my children were in kindergarten. Because when you have children with disabilities and on IEPs and 504s, you're fighting the system constantly. My family's been discriminated against for 20 years. And it has not changed in 20 years. And now I'm the Senate Education Committee Vice Chair, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. So we need to find a way to fight together. And it's going to take every one of you coming and fighting with me. Do not expect me to do this by myself.
Well, friends, God made me pretty stubborn. He also made me an activist because, I got into politics back in 2012 because, honestly, I was tired of politicians and pundits and all the people that were supposed to be the ones creating solutions and leading the way. I was tired of them saying all sorts of words and never meaning a darn one of them, right? And, the fake news media, some of them are walking around right now. They love to call me and my colleagues up here extremists and fascists and Nazis and basically all the names they call you. So yeah, we're proud.
I didn't know that
proud to be on the same
that
stage
agreed
as
to
you.
come
Yes.
here have been called all the
We
same
feel
names.
you.
But look, I'm an activist at heart, and we heard action. We heard about the staff trainings that were happening. And so when you ask, what are we going to do? What am I going to do? I'm going to do everything in my damn power to make sure that our kids are not indoctrinated, are not sexualized, are not dumbed down, and that they are in fact actually prepared to think critically, not to think what the left wants, but to think critically, to solve problems. And so I'm gonna continue to fight. Let me tell you, here's what we have done. Because as he was talking about the staff training, that's why I asked him, I said, what year was that? He said the 2020-2021 school year. Well, guess what bill I passed into law in 2021? It said that not a dime of public money in the state of Arizona should go towards teaching any critical race theory, DEI, or anything else to any public employee at any level of government across our state. So now that can't happen.
Yes.
In 2022, last year, I passed the bill banning sexually explicit material in our classrooms and in our K-12 schools. So we actually put it in statute, made it very uncomfortable for the left. In fact, it was so uncomfortable for the left. Shelley Boggs, who happens to be my assistant at the Capitol, she told me before we came up, she goes, you need to tell them the story about how you had to ask DPS for approval to show the books that are in fourth grade classrooms when it comes to sexually explicit material. I had to get the Department of Public Safety's approval to hold them up and show them in a House and Senate committee hearing, okay? That's how bad this stuff is, and I'm proud to say that we forced Governor Ducey. He told me up until the very last minute that he was gonna veto the bill. And me and Nancy Bartow said, she was in the Senate, I was in the House. And I said, Nancy, should we amend this? What do you think? And she goes, I don't know, do you want to amend it? And I said, not a chance. So we pushed it onto Ducey's desk, and guess what? He signed it. And so now you all as parents have the ability to go to your school districts when you find sexually explicit material and say, not in this school district. I'm never going to do that. Now, here's the deal. They're circumventing the school systems when it comes to that. So the libraries have started. The American Library Association just brought on a new president. You've probably heard this. That the new president is a self-described Marxist lesbian who has said that their entire agenda for the library system in America is to further the queerification of American children. Okay? This is an extreme agenda. So, again, I say, I'm going to do everything in my power. I am right now working with the city council. I'm not going to mention which one because I don't want to tip off the other side. But I am literally writing for them model ordinance policy to make it to put a criminal felony penalty on exposing children to sexually explicit materials. That means in our libraries too. And the reality is that when you think outside the box and when you pursue these types of changes that, as was mentioned, they are in the best interest of everyone. They're an 85% issue for Americans, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Green Party, Libertarians. We all agree that our kids should not be indoctrinated, sexualized, and dumbed down. Yet the system, the government, says that they should be. But when you have tools, when you think outside of the box, you can start to take back that system. And so as you get one courageous city council member, as you get one courageous Rachel Walden on a school board, as you get one who's willing to do this, you have to turn that into a domino effect. And when we get this one city to pass this ordinance, you have to go to your city and say, hey, you're a Republican. Why are you allowing this in our library? Take them the books. Show them the materials. It's disgusting. But you have to do that. We saw this throughout the Trump presidency. I think I'm going to use Rachel as an example, as an analogy to the Trump presidency. President Trump got up there. Rachel has gotten up on the Mesa School Board, and they wear it on the chin, meeting after meeting, day after day, doing the job that every single one of us agrees needs to happen. Why aren't there 5 more Rachel Waldens stepping up and running for the school board? So that she's not the only person doing the job. When Trump was in office and we saw, hey, if you shake the system hard enough, some of the dead leaves fall off and we can get new growth. Why weren't there 100,000 new people willing to take those same punches and get in that same boat? Just like Washington crossing the Delaware. Why didn't we have enough? because it was easier to sit back, grab our popcorn, and watch the show. But the reality, 2024, and what we're fighting in the education system, it's the last show. If we don't fix our school system right now, today, if we don't push these policies across every school district level and have candidates to run for those offices, that means taking money out of our pocket and funding those candidates. Guys, you can win a school board race on like $2,500 in most cases, okay? Why are we asking the person who's going to spend 4 years getting their butt beat in, why are we asking them to also fund the $2,500? I don't know. But complacency, if we allow it to exist right now, and in the next, I'm going to say 24 months, if we allow complacency to continue, we will lose not only our country, but we will lose our children. This is something where we have to step up today. We have to get creative, and we've got to keep fighting. I want to tell you one more thing, then I'm going to turn it over because I know I talked too long. So this year, I ran a bill that was very simple. It said no public school classroom should be used to film pornography. Katie Hobbs vetoed that bill.
Democrats all voted no as well.
The Democrats also all voted no, unanimously no. So the bill was pretty simple. The bill really did say that you shouldn't be allowed to film pornos in a school classroom. And you know the reason why in Mojave County this happened in a junior high classroom. And it literally was on an 8th grade girl's desk is where they filmed it. It's disgusting. Katie Hobbs vetoed that bill. Well, we're going to bring it back next year. And then, unless she's been recalled or something, we're going to bring it back the next year. And then we're going to bring it back the next year because we have to rip off their masks. We have to show them for the evil, the evil groomers that they are, right? And we have to use these things to wake parents up. And so, look, this is another situation where it's not just what are we doing, because you know what? Look, I can run all the best bills in the world until the cows come home. But if people like you, when Katie Hobbs vetoes them, right? When she runs bills or he runs bills or she runs bills, and the Democrats all vote no, or Katie Hobbs vetoes them, the leftist media attacks them. If you guys don't step up and speak that and amplify those things, we lose. Because it's a tree that falls in the forest and nobody's around to hear it. Guys, we are not the solution to this problem. We will fight, and we will wear it on the chin for you just like Rachel does, and just like all the other courageous, just like Anna does, and all the other school board members who are in this fight. But we're not the answer. We're just your guys' support system. We're the ones to go in and kick down the door that you bring to us that needs to be kicked down. You guys are the ones that have to run through it.
Amen, right? Amen, Mary's word. As a former school board member who sat on the 4-1s and sat in school board meetings with thousands of Red for Ed chanting at me and not another color shirt to be found for support, I second everything all of you have said. There's a reason Moms for Liberty shirts are not red. Let me tell you that. Okay, listen, we wanted to give a good 45 minutes for audience questions, but everyone, politicians tend to talk longer than we expect. No one should be surprised about that. But we do want to open it up now for audience questions. If you want to line up in the center there, I'd like to give you guys a fair understanding. We were going to wrap up by 9. We're not going to be able to do that if we want to take audience questions. So I think we're looking now about 9:20. We're going to do about 30 minutes of audience questions, just for those in the audience that want to bail out or get in line.
Are you going to sign out the questions, or which one of us answers?
Yeah, they're going
to
to
direct it?
Yeah, we don't need everyone answering every question, but if it's been directed to you or you feel like that's your question, let's get an answer on, and let's try to, because this is getting to be a really long line, and so let's try to answer these as quick as possible. Okay. And ground rules. Look, you may not like some of these or all of these people up here. That's your right. They're your representative. It's their job to take it if you don't like them, but please no profanity. You don't need to be extremely hateful. Just, say what you got to say. It could be, you don't like them. You can say that. I'm not going to stop you, but let's not act like children. Thank you.
If you're a Democrat, those rules don't apply. Use as much profanity as you want so we can put you on video.
You're on camera.
Go.
Tina. I've been hoping I would meet you someday. My name is Beverly Goldstein. I am here from Ohio. I ran for Congress twice. From 2009 to 2016, until I ran for Congress, my whole work was in the area of reviewing textbooks and finding problems in textbooks, and I published some articles about that. We lived in an extremely liberal city where we came from. This is advice I would like you to comment on. I think there needs to be a structure within the communities like your organization, and there shouldn't be a lot of them. There should be one organization. You guys need to all come together and be there for conservative candidates. Second thing is, we have thought about running where we lived before and where we live right now for a seat on the school board. We're not going to win this if we all become Rachel Waldens with 4-to-1 people on a school board. We're going to win this with a 3-year plan to find 2 candidates the year that we can run 2 candidates, and 3 candidates to run the year we can run 3 candidates. And if we can't work with every school board in the state of Arizona, then we got to target 10 or 15 of the worst. And our superintendent gave us some suggestions before he left the room. We can't expect Joe and Sue and this one and that one to understand what it is to become a candidate, how to form a campaign. And I know I have gone through the Leadership Institute. I've been in Washington for their training. My husband's taken 6 classes from 2 different organizations in the past year on running for school board. To be the Rachel Walden and be that only person, you can't make changes. This process needs to come with a plan for targeting specific school boards, because you're going to scare the crap out of the other ones once you get 5 of these. Okay, get the 5 best ones that you want to go for, or the 10 or the 20, but you need a 3-year plan to run 5 people, work with them as a team, help them message for their district, because everything is a little different. The wealthy districts are one thing, the rural districts are another.
Yes, ma'am.
We need to do some work in the rural areas and some work in the cities. But this has got to be a structure. You can't just find individual people and change this state. It won't work. We tried in Ohio for 9 years.
Understand.
Listen
yes,
to me.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Tina,
Thank you so much.
I have an answer for that question.
Yes,
she
ma'am.
was alluding to as a solution. Wonderful Beverly Goldstein, who represents our conservative Jewish community and does such great work. She made the suggestion, and I shared it. I can't take credit for it, but she suggested that we create a coalition and bring the conservative groups together, and our wonderful Free Enterprise Club has picked up on that. And I don't know if Moms for Liberty has partnered as one of their coalition partners, but what has been so helpful is now there's a one-site shopping where everybody can go. There's several conservative groups all in one coalition where you can target what is your interest. So we are doing that, and it was brilliant.
Excellent, excellent. When it comes to the school board, a couple things real quick. Moms for Liberty is launching in the next 2 weeks a school board candidate toolkit. It is very deep, very broad, very wide. Any Moms for Liberty member can pick up that toolkit. It has spreadsheets to teach you how much you need to raise for your race, everything you need to do. Secondly, in Florida, we had great success flipping entire school boards, Miami-Dade, Jacksonville, Duval, because we did exactly what you are saying, because we had half the state covered in Moms for Liberty chapters. We partnered with our governor, who decided to step up and endorse, just like your state superintendent sounds like he wants to do. This can be done in Arizona, but it's going to take a concerted effort. It's going to take a leader, I believe, like your state superintendent. But our governor was one person. What I'm saying is our chapters endorsed, the governor got behind them. He endorsed behind them, put his name, his resources, his PAC behind them, because we don't have any money. We're a grassroots organization. And so it takes people at the top of government down to the moms on the street that are going to knock the doors. It takes everyone, like you're saying. And I think Arizona is in a great position to do that. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
My name is Susan Winder, and I have attended the Scottsdale Unified School District school board meetings and spoke whenever possible for the past 2 years. I've started attending Paradise Valley. At this last meeting, a parent got up and complained because her 5th grade student, there was a 5th grade male who was going to identify as a female that was being allowed to use the girls' restroom. Now, I'm also an educator, and I know that 5th graders developmentally are not capable of doing that. As legislators and senators, what are you going to do about that?
Who wants it?
I'll take it. All right. So this is one of the answers that I hate to give. And that is, while we have a radical Marxist Democrat serving on the 9th floor in the governor's office, the legislature's not your answer on this one, okay? Your answer is going to come from your school board level, if you have a school board that you can work with, okay? Your city, if you have a city that you can work with, okay? Because again, you can pass these ordinances. Look, we all look to legislatures like they're the only people who can legislate. We all look to Congress like they're the only people who can, legislate at the federal level. Well, Congress, that's true. At the state level, that's not true, okay? Your cities can legislate. Your councils are legislators. They're just called something else. They're called council members. All right? You have to start working with them to pass the laws for their city municipal jurisdiction that will block these things. If they put a law in place that says that you must use the bathroom that is your gender as assigned on your birth certificate, guess what? That applies to the schools too if they're in the city limits, right? So you have to get creative.
One thing I can say is we did kill a bill successfully, dead, which was a SOGI bill. It's sexual orientation, gender identity. Now again, the sexual orientation is one side. The gender identity is the one that's in question here on public accommodations. I think what we're going to be, so we killed it, it's coming up again, I'm going to kill it again, it's not going anywhere. To make that gender identity and private spaces, spaces for women are not going to be violated. We do have famous cases, there's situations happening right now where a male is parading around, he's transgender, he's parading around in the women's and the girls' locker rooms. He did it on a cheer team, the entire cheer team quit. I think you're going to start seeing lawsuits appear from and no one has solved the problem of accommodations. They have not solved it anywhere. It's not working.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ann Hawkins from LD14. I'm a physician, and I wanted to change the tone for a minute, and I wanted to say thank you. This is the way our republic is supposed to work. This town hall is extremely valuable. I really appreciate Moms for Liberty and Tina. But I also want to say I want to thank you 4 representatives here and the Freedom Caucus in Arizona for the amazing leadership that you have provided, and we have seen that tonight, and that's what I jumped up to say that. Thank you to each of you who are my voice there, even though I'm on the request to speak system and all that stuff, but thank you for all the work that you do. And then as a doctor, I have to say how concerned I am with COVID, especially the masking doesn't work, and there's just a new study that's just come out, I believe it was from Germany, and it cited that the substances, contaminants in the mask, including chemicals that are put there in manufacture of masks, whether they're cloth, or whether they're paper masks, those chemicals, if worn and inhaled for a long period of time, are injurious to the youth. And so does our Parents' Bill of Rights allow parents to send their children to school when we have this new COVID pandemic that's coming without a mask? Is that part of the process?
So thank you to the Freedom Caucus. Thank you to Representative Joseph Chaplik from Legislative District 3, who is the founding secretary for the Arizona Freedom Caucus. He passed a bill 2 years ago, I believe, that says no school can require masks. The parents have to opt into masking. They cannot, it's not an opt-out, it's an opt-in. No masks on kids.
God bless you. Thank you so much.
And that's in Article 1, which means it covers everything.
And Joseph Chaplick did want to be here this evening, just so you know. He was not able to join us, but thank you so much.
You are so welcome.
Next question. And let's make sure nobody else gets in line. We're gonna cut the meeting off at whoever that last person is back there in the line now. Go ahead, Julie.
Hi, my name is Peggy McLean, and I'm going to ask a question I don't know any of you can answer. I think, Senator Hoffman, you had tried to address it a year or two ago. These teachers and administrators didn't just get this way. They've been groomed this way in high school, in school, but also in college. If you look into what's going on at the Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College at ASU, I think the Fultons would not like what is being done with their name, and now we know what's being done at the nursing school at U of A. You guys fund these universities. Now, without talking about the alleged governor, let's say we had a governor, Jackie Parker. What could you guys do as far as funding? Is there anything to rein these universities in so we're putting better teachers into the classroom?
How many up here would love to not fund our public universities? Yeah, I mean, look, the reality is that, and I'll be quick so somebody else can. No, that's not look, it's not that we don't want public universities. It's that we don't want woke, crazy Marxist public universities. And that's what we have right now. So what we have done from a funding perspective is, look, the best way to combat bad ideas is with what? Good ideas, okay? The more we can provide opportunities for students at those public universities to have real, common sense, civically minded, constitutionally based education, like we've created, actually Andy Biggs created it, the Freedom School at ASU and the Freedom School at U of A, and then just now this year we funded the Center for American Institutions, which is a brand new school. They are taking over the curriculums in the various departments within ASU and U of A. NAU's kind of a lost cause. They're a bunch of hippies up there, right? So sorry if you're a lumberjack, I'm just playing. No, but the reality is we fund the good ideas so that they will outshine the bad ideas, because guess what? When students have a choice, they choose the good ideas.
Thank you.
We
Next
are
question.
fighting on that funding, by the way. Joseph Chaplick and I are the conservative fighters on the Appropriations Committee where those money decisions are made.
Next question.
Hi, my question is actually for the ladies in the very back row. What did you find so particularly objectionable to what these people had to say? I would like to invite you to come up here and state your grievances.
She does. I mean, whoever. She doesn't have to speak back there. Like, it's open to the public, and not everybody's going to agree with everything that goes on in here. So I think it's okay. Let's get on to the next question.
Believe me, we've heard it all.
My name is Mark Kimball, longtime Mesa resident and Westwood Warrior, and go Westwood, War Eagle. So, seems that some would believe that the answer to the low scores and the miserable stats is simply just pour more money into the Mesa Public Schools. We know that a $500 million bond issue is coming up. What's your advice? What are your thoughts on that? And educate us in what we can do, because that's not the answer to the problem. So, let's hear it.
I can tell you right now that more money is not the answer to the problem.
Yeah, I'll expand on that. This is the kind of game that we get on the Hill every single year. Every year, the teachers' unions, the school districts, Red for Ed, everybody comes to the dinner and they say the same thing. They say, we are broke, we don't have any money, we can't pay our teachers. And every single year for the last decade, we have increased school funding in Arizona. School funding is almost double what it is now, what it was in 2013. Have our schools gotten better since 2013? No. It has become increasingly clear to many of us that we could give, that the schools already receive half the state budget. It takes half of your tax dollars of the entire revenue for the state to get a third of our students to proficiency in reading and math. Okay? That's what it takes. And it's become very clear, no matter how much we raise this money, Not a dime of that money gets to the classroom or to the teachers. And it's clear that we could give 100% of the state budget to education, and it would not change anything. Okay? Education,
And it
our
still
schools,
wouldn't be enough for these people.
yeah, our schools do not have a funding problem, they have a spending problem.
And may I add to that? We need you to understand the truth. We are asked to write the blank checks. We have zero power to control where that money goes, and it is school boards that are deciding how much to pay teachers. When I was first running, somebody asked me, will I make sure teachers are paid more? And I said, do you know who gets to make that decision? The school boards. So not one of us up here would want every dollar to get to that teacher and in that classroom. We don't get to decide that. And they come to us for blank checks with no control and no transparency and no accountability. That's the fight.
And here's the hard truth that no one wants to say and the school districts won't admit to, but they work very hard to convince people that the legislature sets our teachers' salaries.
Yes.
Okay? Multiple times we have tried to bypass the school districts and go straight to the teachers. The unions and the school districts come out against it. Here's the reality. They will never pay teachers enough, because if they did, they would lose their biggest bargaining chip on the Hill. They come to the Hill and say, our teachers aren't getting enough. Everybody likes teachers and we want teachers to get a decent salary, but they're never going to raise that salary because they're tools for the school district to use to continue to get more money for the system.
And can I just embellish on that really quickly? There's a huge elephant in this room that has not been talked about enough, and that is the ESA.
I'm really trying to diet.
I know. I know. It's an elephant. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? The ESA program, guys, it is not a voucher program. If I hear somebody call it a voucher program, again, guys in the back, those are not what we have in Arizona. We have an ESA. It's an empowerment scholarship account. And the price per pupil has increased. It has doubled what it was just a few years ago. So the schools have been used to getting roughly $6,500 per pupil statewide in 2019. And in 2023, they're getting $15,000. Now, if you get ESA, you're taking $7,000 away, and the school district still gets $8,000, which is more than what they were getting in 2019. So when I hear again from the Attorney General or anybody else on the left that we're bankrupting Arizona with the ESA program, I want all of you to stand up and fight those words. Fight those words. We are not a voucher program. Vouchers are illegal in Arizona. We are the ESA, and we are not bankrupting this state at all.
2% of the money of all funding goes to ESA. 98% goes to the public schools.
There you go.
And even people who say, well, there's no ceiling to this, it could keep growing. Even the wildest projections on how far it's going to go, it could go as high as 5% of the total education spending for Arizona. And that 5%, we are told, is what is going to bankrupt the entire state, because 5% of the education money might go to somewhere other than the school district.
And my final statement on this very quickly, just so you guys know, you talk about teachers not getting paid enough. The micro schools, you can pay a teacher $100,000 a year if it's done right. And these teachers can get paid great salaries, but the narrative is scaring the hell out of them, ever breaking free from the norm. They're not going to go ahead and do it. We need to start making it very clear to people what they can do to make money as a teacher, because we need to reward the good ones.
Okay, we are going to do a lightning round. We're going to take, there's 5 people. That's 2 minutes. So 1 minute for a question, 1 minute from one person for an answer. So as concise as possible. That means we can wrap this up in 10 minutes. Go.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Johnston. God bless you, Tina, and Moms for Liberty. I'm on the board of a local organization. Our table's over there, Arizona Women of Action, and I run the Twitter account. And we have a Twitter and Instagram account, AZ Woke Schools. We expose what's going on in Arizona schools. My question or my comment for you is, are you well aware of what's going on in schools regarding community schools? the presence of mental health clinics or social workers and school counselors. This is very serious. School counselors are not board certified in Arizona. They have no business in our schools doing what they're doing with kids. They need to be sent out of school to professionals. So please be aware, we have a mental health committee run by a Republican here in Arizona. We have to be careful what is going on in schools, including apps, including all kinds of things going on that we need to be careful of because the suicide rate is being manipulated. Don't fall for it, please. I'm begging.
I will take this one.
Thank you for partnering tonight and helping us out.
My seatmate, Rachel Jones, I don't know if you guys know us out of LD17, we call ourselves the Arizona Freedom Team. And Rachel Jones actually had a bill that was to put some of these social workers in check and also to shrink some of these school districts like Mesa and TUSD because they're grossly huge. But yes, the mental health issues, that's something that she and I are actually working on as we speak, is to stop that mental health because these are schools, they are not mental health clinics, period.
Thank you. Okay, next question. 1 minute.
I swear I'll be fast. Okay. I completely support school choice, but my concern is what are we going to do to prevent them from forcing the curriculum to follow the funding now? The funds follow the child, but what about the curriculum? Are they going to force that? And what are we going to do to fight it?
All right, so
1 minute.
I'll be less than a minute. Okay, so when the ESA bill passed last year, there was one lone holdout. Actually, I think there were two. It was me and Jacqueline Parker. And we said, we're not going to support the ESA, the Universal School Choice Funding, which sounds like an anti-conservative position. Except in the bill as drafted, they had accountability for private schools. They tried to open the door to exactly what you're talking about, and we stood our ground and said absolutely not and played chicken with them until in the 11th hour they pulled it out of the bill and we finally were able to vote yes. We have to continue to say no to opening the door. We will not allow that.
Good job, good job. Okay, next question.
Hi, my name is Ed Steele. I'm a precinct committeeman right here in LD10. And my question is, what state agency or entity is responsible to make sure the school district follows the law, follows the state statute? Because the frustration that I experience over and over is you can identify and say, go to the district and say, you're violating state statute by doing X, Y, and Z, and their response is, no, we're not. And the question is, where does it go from there? No, none of these parents or grandparents can fork over $5 or $10 grand to sue so who's responsible at that point to say, how do we enforce this?
It's supposed to be the school boards, and I actually had a bill that was supposed to bring in the school boards into the 1487 AG complaint circuit. So if the school boards were not doing their jobs and we were having problems because you have these 5-to-1s and 4-to-1s, that the state legislature could then step in and file a complaint to have the Attorney General then get involved. But that was killed.
I do have one answer. I have one answer too.
It's the school board.
You do need parents. You need to report. There is an anonymous whistleblower hotline. It's AZDE Empowerment Hotline for investigations. Any behavior outside of school academic teaching should be reported. It will be anonymous. That means anything that has to do with cultural issues, asking for pronouns, pride discussions, social emotional learning, how often SEL are happening, lessons discussion outside of state standards, they are not allowed to do. You've got to blow up the hotline. That doesn't take money. Whistleblower.
Thank you. Great. I'm glad your state has that.
Hi, my name is Annette Nabelski. I am the new LD in number.
Rachel Walden. We'll get that to you. Right there in the back.
Go ahead.
I'm the new precinct committeeman in LD5. I do not have any children, but the reason why this concerns me is because my family is from Poland. My grandfather was taken into Dachau for not being white enough, and now I've got people coming at me telling me I suffer from white privilege. My paternal grandfather and my grandparents, I know what getting a bit of privilege and equity looks like. It looks like a gulag in Siberia where everything is taken away from you and you are blamed for everybody not being equal. So I see the patterns here. I take it seriously because most of the student revolutions, like Mao and Iran and all that, they're student-based. So I see that teachers are, they're being taught. What are Republicans doing to credential them in an alternative way where you can say, like, okay, I'm credentialed here because right now the left has that captured. I mean,
well, let me address it. So, and this is the common thing, is that when we come out against one of these things like CRT or all of these woke things, the charge from the other side is always, well, you just don't want to have anybody talk about race. You just want to ignore, the whatever minority group we're identifying as the victim here. That is not right. We don't have any issue. Here's the problem with CRT and all of these other things, is that it is bad for everyone involved. It is bad for the white students who are told that because of the color of their skin, because people centuries ago who just happened to look like them did bad things, that they somehow now carry a responsibility for that. And that they need to check their privilege, they need to step back, they need to acknowledge some responsibility in it. And for the children of color, it's even worse, because you are telling them that they live in a rigged system, that they can never get ahead in, that all of America is stacked against them, that things are being taken from them constantly, and by who? By their classmates, who happen to have a different skin color than them. Nobody succeeds in this environment. Nobody wants this. The only way that we address this is by drawing a line in the sand and saying, judging children by the color of their skin is evil. And it doesn't matter whether we do that in the name of tolerance and acceptance. Okay? A smiling fascist is still a fascist. Okay? We need to hold the line on this. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your testimony and your family history.
Okay. All right, last question of the night. Thank you, ma'am.
So in the spirit of transparency for parents and accountability for parents, what about the idea of cameras in the classroom? And is this legal? Probably isn't. Probably going to get a lot of fights over that. I was just curious, is it an idea that's being floated?
Anybody
And is
wanna-
is it possible to have this?
Well, if there were
done?
cameras in the classroom, I'd be able to see the ones that were abusing my child in a wheelchair all day.
That's what I'm asking. Is this a
I'm for
possibility
it.
for the future?
I think
but
that
is it illegal? I mean,
No, you have the right. Please make sure your kids with phones know that they can indeed record their teachers and record back and report back. You have 1 million cameras in the classroom.
Well, the kids,
Yes, they can. That was a
But
big
I'm
debate.
not real great about the kids having cameras.
Right,
phones,
but-
because that's a total distraction.
Right,
for the
right, yeah.
classroom. I'm talking.
Tucson Unified used to put something called a yell or something like that. It was like a sleeve that they would make kids drop their phones into and hang by the door because they didn't want their children to be able to videotape the teachers in the classroom. And I fought it with my son because he was diabetic, and I needed him to be able to text me his blood sugars and to be able to communicate with me if he was feeling low or whatnot. But it took months of me fighting TUSD, Tucson High, to allow him to have his phone out during class. And ironically, he caught one of the teachers telling him that people like his mother, who's a Republican, want to kill him. And it caused him to have a complete nervous breakdown, and I had to remove him from the school and put him into ESA. So to tell you, the cameras in the classroom are necessary because the teachers don't want the cameras in the classroom. They try to take the kids, their stuff was being hung by the door.
We have the governor, right-hand person who counsels her is the ACLU. And so I don't think that's something we could ever get through.
Yeah, maybe not at the moment. I think that, realistically, I don't want to have cameras in the classroom, but the further we go forward, it seems like the school districts are intent on forcing our hand. Because the reality is a lot of the teachers were fine with the idea of classrooms, even advocated for cameras in the classroom when they thought it was just for security. As soon as they said, well, parents should be able to request it and see it, all of a sudden the alarm bells went off and they said, no, we can't. This is far too invasive. Look, if the school districts are not going to reform and change how they're handling it, then transparency again has to be the thing, and that to me is the ultimate.
As
standard.
Tina,
it is
Barbara,
a concern
as
about the
Tina
civil
starts
liberty.
to twitch over here because we're running very, very long. On behalf of the Arizona Freedom Caucus, thank you for having us up here. We're happy to support you guys, and everybody, give it
Thank
up
you.
for Tina and what Moms for Liberty is doing.
Thank you all for coming.
you.
Thank you. Sorry to rush